What is up, Team Happy and Fit? Happy Tuesday. First and foremost, I love it on my social media when I see your journey and you're just showing up. I just saw Mary's and I was like, okay, abs, like, hello, there you are, goals for life. And then Carrie was posting, I'm like, hello, arms, like, what? You are goals, right? And then a lot of you are posting just vulnerable, real stuff. I tell you what, the thing that's going to separate you in this journey is just sharing your actual journey. Stop trying to pretend to be someone else or have it all figured out, or trying to be somewhere where you're not. Just kind of own your journey, own where you currently are. If you're struggling with jealousy, comparison, staying on track, if you are lost a little bit, like, own that, share it. People follow relatable people. The more authentic you become, the better your voice stands out. And so when I'm looking at your social media, I just get so proud because it's just you owning your story. Kristen, I saw your before and afters and I was like, you are so inspiring. It just shows when I look at that, besides your abs, I'm just like, she put in the work for that. 3 babies later, like, are you kidding me? That is so freaking awesome because you dial in, you get to work, you get it done, you don't make excuses. And I mean, we don't have to all do this for abs. That's not what it's for. It's to do it to be healthier and happier. And you can do that in your own way. But if you're already fit before this, first of all, that wasn't me. So congratulations that you just had a good lifestyle before I did. But own that you don't have a before and after. Own that whatever, like, you were healthy before and that this made the most sense for you. For those of you who feel like you need to still lose a certain amount of pounds, talk about that. Where are you going? People want to join people who are going somewhere. And if you're sharing like, hey, I still have a ways to go, but I know that this healthy lifestyle is going to stick and last and help me, like, own that, right? If my season, I'm changing and transforming, I'm owning that. And so continue to do that with your social media. If you are a new coach, I think I started to say it before the recording, welcome. We have a weekly call, Best Practice, that we just share what's going on. You being on this call, 1, connects you to the community. 2, gives you ideas on how to make this thing work. Because we're all on Happy and Fit for Coach to Self, but a really cool thing that we have at our fingertips is coach to others. We don't have to master being perfect, but we can, if you care about someone and you care about people, you can be really awesome at coach to others. Like, let me just tell you that by you still being on your journey makes you the most relatable, right? So on certain Tuesdays, my brother is sharing more of a business insight on social media, marketing, those types of things. So if you are new, write down what he's saying, but also know, like, right now we just want you to get started on your journey of fitness and nutrition and start to share that. For those of you who've been on this a little bit longer, I think it's more applicable at the moment, but I just think everybody should hear where we're taking this thing, right? So my brother is going to go ahead and take over the call. I have some announcements after. I'm so grateful he spends our time with us and talking about, things that he probably doesn't want to hear about. So related to changing bodies and stuff of pregnancy, but we're super happy you're here.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time today. And seeing some of these faces again. I feel like I'm getting to know some of you. Just once a month, I get to see a little bit inside. So it's really neat, and it's a pleasure on my end. So like Julianne said, this is a monthly course that I take, and we kind of walk down a few different marketing avenues. I try to keep it for beginners as well as a little bit into advanced, but today we'll kind of get a capstone course to what we've been doing the last couple months. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen. Here we go. All right, you can see my screen. Here we are. Okay, so this is Marketing 104, Introduction to Analytics. Now, most of you probably think analytics, wow, that's a lot of data, that's a lot of everything else, but we'll kind of ease into it today and hopefully make it a little bit more excitable. A lot of you probably already do analytics and you don't even know it. So today's agenda, we'll give you a quick introduction of who I am and what I'm about for those that are new to the call. A little bit of overview and the value behind the analytics. We'll walk down analytics on every platform, very similar to what we did last month with social media. We'll talk about connecting all the pieces, kind of how they work together and maybe some benefits and key metrics to look at. and offer up a few minutes of question and answers, if anybody else has any questions or anything like that. So with that said, let's get going. All right, so the introduction and overview, that's my ugly mug. I'm an advertising professional. I've been doing this for quite some time now, and I do some consulting on the side now, but that's a little bit about me. I don't like talking about me. All right, next. All right, overview and value of analytics, right? What is analytics, right? Analytics is the discovery, the interpretation, and communication of meaningful patterns in data, right? So this is the process of applying those patterns towards effective decision-making. So in other words, analytics is the connective tissue between the data and effective decision-making. So that's a really extreme example of, overthinking how data can be used and decision making and what this all means. Today, we're going to just kind of talk about where it's located and how to get to it, how to access it, and kind of maybe you'll find your own trends or ideas in there for your own decision making. So you can use analytics to predict probabilities, trends when creating content, posting content, advertising, and optimizing conversion. So what I want to say is, and I apologize if I'm bouncing back and forth here. Julianne, did this work? You can see me now, right? All right, cool. I want to do a little bit more FaceTime so that you guys can kind of see me talk instead of just staring at a screen. So, what I want to recap on that is when you're creating content, you can use analytics to identify which content is better. Does it have your face? Does it have a story? Does it contain a tip? Is it an inspirational quote? You can start to see the trends in between there. Posting your content, you can start to know what times of day, what days of the week, a lot of stuff that we kind of already know. Advertising, a lot of this stuff can be used for when you decide to advertise. All these platforms are doing a really great job of saying, hey, $10, boost this post. $5 here, get it out to more people. That's great. But if you have an idea of what to aim for and where your audience is coming from, you can maximize and stretch that dollar a lot further. So instead of just saying, here's $10, get it to more people, you can say, here's $10, but I want to go after this demographic and this age and this location with this interest. Now that $10, you still hit the same amount of people, but you hit the right people. So that's kind of how I want you to start thinking about how to use analytics and what, sorry, I'm doing two things at once. And what I mean is by saying the optimizing for conversions, like how to, maximize what you're doing here, right? So here's a little bit of an overview of the previous courses that we've done and some of the upcoming courses. So we started this journey way back in January where we introduction to websites. So this is where we kind of identified what it means to have a website, maybe some of the, hurdles that you have to overcome to creating a website, and so on. We dove into a little bit of email, how to use it, how to build your list, how to build content, and kind of the functionality of it. Last month, we really dove into social media. We talked about the who, what, where, when, and how to use the social media and kind of broke down the 7 or 8 different popular platforms. And today we're doing the introduction to analytics. So this is kind of, you can see, 101, think of a college course, 101, 102, 103, 104. 104 is the capstone. So this is where we're going to talk about how all these elements really kind of start becoming to work together. Next month, you'll see that we start talking about increasing website traffic, increasing email subscribers, increasing social media followers. So you can kind of start to see that pattern, how we're going to repeat and eventually come back to analytics and see, now that we're increasing traffic and increasing followers, what does that all mean? So hopefully this gives you a good idea of the big picture of where we're aiming, what this topic is really about. All right, so before we dive into each platform, it's really important to note to balance your content creation with prospecting, okay? What I mean by that is, in our last course with the social media, right? We broke down the content creation of where, when, and how to use each platform. Like that's content creation. That's where, when we're talking about emails, that's taking the time to think about, do I want to, what Julianne was saying at the beginning of this call, telling your story, that's all creating content. Prospecting is what we're going to talk about in the next level of courses. This is about how to generate traffic, subscribers, and followers. So you're going to start to hear me refer to prospecting and retargeting. Prospecting is going out after, new audience. Retargeting is what it sounds like, retargeting to your audience that you already have. So what's really important with analytics is think of it as like a 3-pillar or a pie graph that's equally 3 pieces, however you want to describe it. Ration your focus and create time for understanding your audience, the trends, and other valuable information. So just as much time as you spend on creating content, I'm going to champion you in spending just that same amount of time and figuring out where you're finding new audience members. If you're spending way too much time trying to find new audience members, I'm going to champion you to spend time thinking about your content creation and what you're putting behind it. And equally as much to both of those, I'm going to champion you spending time to understand who your audience is and who you're talking to, because it really kind of helps bring both of the other pieces together. So I want to see, can we get some head nods? Is everybody on with me right now? Okay, cool. All right, so analytics is really, you can spend a lot of time in trying to figure out what all this means and what to do with it, and it can be really overwhelming. So try not to, really overthink what we're going to get into when we walk down each platform. I'm really just going to kind of try to point where each is available and kind of how to use it, and we can have some questions and stuff at the end. So let's get back into it. All right. So here's the analytics on every platform. So we're going to start just like we did with the courses. We're going to walk down through each one of them through website, email, and on all of our social media platforms. So we're going to start with our website, right? Connects directly to Google Analytics, right? Some hosting platforms like Wix, what were some of the ones we talked about previously? Any of those, if you use a platform to build your website and to do the hosting with it, a lot of them provide their own analytics within the system. So that can be a really helpful introduction to what you're looking for or what you can try to understand. So I highly recommend connecting them directly to Google Analytics. And the reason why is because you're going to want your data all in one place. The platforms have a very limited capability of working across through Facebook and Instagram and all these other things that we're going to get into. So it's just a pro tip or caution, to, if you can, directly link that to Google Analytics. Email platforms on the platforms themselves offer the analytics. You can look at the time of days. You can look at the days of weeks. It's pretty helpful to get in there. What you're not going to find is you're not going to find demographics like age. You're not going to find their sex, if they're male or female. You will be able to see location, but there's a limited capability of what you're going to see from the analytics in your email. YouTube, the platform itself offers analytics, but it also connects directly to Google Analytics. So YouTube is pretty neat because it's owned by Google. If you guys are commenting, I'm sorry, I can't see them. So it's really helpful because Google does a great job of taking search data, other things that Google's involved with, and it really incorporates it with your demographics. So as you begin to, dig into any of the Google platforms, they're all linked together and they have really helpful information in there. So here you can see a little bit about, example of what the age groups might look like or where your demographics go and, how often they watch a specific video. Facebook, right? So your normal Facebook is what I would call your personal Facebook. In order to get to the analytics, you need to switch or create a business page, right? Think of this as almost like a website we were talking about before. This is like a mini step to creating your own website where you're creating your own page, where you're having your own events, your own content, your own offers, your own, all these different items that, you're doing and you're out there telling your story. Having a business page provides a lot of great feedback. It'll tell you, how your post is doing. It'll tell you what your audience is like. It'll give you a lot of really helpful information right there in Facebook. A cool note with Facebook is Google and Facebook are best friends. So you can install a Google or a Facebook pixel on your website and through your Google Analytics, and the two can link together and you can begin to optimize for conversions within Facebook. So again, not to get too far down this road, but if you were to ever boost a post or offer an ad, again, that 10, 15 bucks, whatever it is that it's trying to pull you for, you can use some of the analytics from your Google Analytics and link that directly into your Facebook. So for an example of remarketing, anybody that's visited your website, you can go into Facebook and say, this $5 post or this $10 boost that I want to do, I only want to hit the people that have been to my website before. I don't want to hit anybody else. And not only that, I want to hit the people that live in California or live in Wisconsin or live in Florida. So it becomes really, really powerful when you get the two together. Instagram, again, you switch your account or you create a business account. And you get access to the analytics. Now, you don't get this with your personal side of it, but this is extremely, extremely helpful in understanding what you're doing and how you're spending your time on the social media platform. So your analytics can tell you your activity, your content, and your audience. And we'll dig into that a little bit more later. Pinterest, again, they have a great analytics platform right within it. All it takes is just switching to or creating a business account. I highly recommend, just like with Facebook, keeping things separate, keeping your personal life, your kids, your spouses, your family, all that personal, and your business. But on Pinterest, it's kind of the same thing. If you're, building a collection for your, kids, or you're planning a wedding, or you're planning a birthday party, or whatever it is that you're penning, your own recipes or your own stuff, you don't necessarily want the public to see that. So I advise on creating the business account. It's all for free. You just acknowledge that you're a business and not a personal account, and then you get access to the analytics in there. So that can be really helpful as well. Snapchat. Now, a really, really cool thing with Snapchat is they just released their Insights dashboard, and here's a preview of it below. It's very limited. They only released it to specific verified influencers. So it's exciting because they're taking a page from what Instagram was doing, and they are now applying kind of those same features. So there's a lot of potential here. They realize that a lot of people left Snapchat, so now start to look to Snapchat to kind of mimic more of what you're seeing on Instagram and how they're doing their feeds and things like that. So a lot of in-app data without the dashboard. You can see your swipes. You can see a couple other things in there that are helpful. You can create a paid account as an alternative if you did want to do advertising in there. There is a lot of analytics on that side of it, but again, that requires a paid advertising account, which is a whole other animal. LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn is kind of bittersweet. It's a great platform. They're just not up there yet. This is why they're number 8 on the list. It's limited in-app data. It expires after about 60 days. So you can see, very similar to with your Facebook business page, a little bit of insights, how many times it got shared, how many link clicks it got. But it's really not going to tell you a lot about your demographics and your audience to that. You can create a paid advertising account on there as well, similar to Snapchat, but there's potential in there. It's a little bit different than the other social media platforms. Last but not least, Twitter. All it requires is an in-app activation. That's all you got to do. You just go in there and you say, hey, show me some of the analytics to my account. A lot of people don't do it. You just have your personal Twitter and so on. But if you go in there, you can turn that bad boy on and really start to get into some cool stuff. So that kind of recaps the quick overview of where analytics are and what kind of is involved with them. If you attended last month, we went down each of those social media platforms, and I ranked them based on the Pew report, so YouTube and so on. So if you notice, this is kind of the same rank, and we're going through the same thing. So if you were to prioritize of what to spend your time on or where to understand, know that the order of these slides do take that into account. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about how to wire all the pieces together. Like, how do we connect all these elements, okay? So we're going to start back up at the top with our website. Now, as I said before, this links directly with Google. A really cool benefit of this is you can create goals. So with your analytics, and this is a big difference between what you're going to find in Google Analytics versus your platform's analytics, right? So if you're talking about WordPress or Wix or any of these other website platforms, you might not be able to create some of these goals and do this. They're getting a lot better with it, and Google is becoming more open to allowing third-party applications to do this. But creating goals are, let's say I want people to download my podcast, or I want them to submit a form and contact me. I want them to sign up for my email newsletter. I want them to download this new recipe that I put. You know, all these, whatever your goals are on your website of what you want activities to do, you can create these goals and it'll begin to track those, and you can now highlight funnels based on those goals, right? So you can see if my goal was to get email subscribers, well, how many people went through that? And I can start to look at that funnel, where they came in from my website, how they got there, did they go directly there, and where, more importantly, where they came from. So with that said, you can build audiences. I mentioned this previously in the deck. Building audiences for remarketing is the opposite of prospecting. This is where you can say, I want to build an audience to anybody that's visited this specific page in my website, or submitted this form, or did all these other things that we just mentioned with our goals. You can begin to build those audiences and use those on Facebook, use those on Instagram, and use those on these other platforms, and use those in your email marketing to now kind of create a cohesive campaign where you're really stretching that dollar and maximizing it, right? So a little bit of a pro tip over there, using Google Analytics brings all of your data into one place. I've mentioned that before. It's really important that, you know, if this is sounding like this is going to take a lot of time, or might, you know, just, you know, a little bit of homework here, having it all in one place would greatly help. You know, not going to different platforms and different this, and what is my audience over here and my audience over there. So bringing them all together is really, really helpful. UTMs, right? By using UTMs, now what UTM stands for is like a urchin, something module, tracking module, whatever it is. Don't even worry about it. But what it is it's a unique link. So if you ever click a link and it says, go to, you know, GameofThrones.com / you know, the wall, then after that, you'll see sometimes some funky characters, and it might say source, campaign, campaign name, and other parameters that are attached to that link. A UTM basically tracks that link and feeds that into your analytics. So now when you're using other platforms, and I'll get to it in the next couple slides, as you're driving traffic back to your website, you can use these UTMs and begin to help your analytics work for you and begin to categorize where the traffic is coming from, because you're putting it on that end. So anyway, it's a little bit more complex. We'll get into those in future courses and so on, but that's what I mean when I'm saying UTMs. Now, deep breath. If that was all a lot of stuff to take in just for this one slide, there is an online academy. Google has great, great, great resources out there that are all free. And they give examples. They show you, I mean, we're talking websites that are very similar to what your industry is. You know, you might only have 100 visitors a week. You might only have 100 visitors a month. But it offers real life examples of how to track this stuff and why, and how you can use it for your advantage, and how to use this to fuel other marketing, and how they all kind of work together. So I highly recommend looking at their online academy. Find me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. I can send you the link. I apologize for not including it on here, but do a quick Google search and you'll find it. With that said too, YouTube is your best friend. If you have any thoughts on how to use some of this stuff or understand some of these things, go to YouTube. There's a lot of information out there. Okay. Whew. Email. Connects to Google Analytics via those UTM links. That's what I was talking about before. So if you were sending out an email and you were talking about this recipe, you might drive it to your website, and at the back end of the UTM, you might say the source is email, the campaign is recipes, you know, and you might add some of those variables in there so that when it comes into your Google Analytics will know to look for those things. Some key metrics to track, your delivery rates. You know, if you have 1,000 people in your subscriber list and you send it out and you only hit, you know, let's say 500, 50% of them, that's really bad. You're going to want, you know, a delivery rate anywhere above 95%. You're going to want people that have active emails and so on. Open rates, click rates, unsubscribe abuse rates. Those are all helpful metrics that will help you understand how your audience responds to your content and what they do next. Keep a pulse on the list subscriber totals. Those are helpful to kind of see that if your subscriber list is going down or up, and what those trends are. Now, most professional email platforms will give you data on the times of the day, the days of the week, the open rates, click rates, and so on. However, once they click and leave your email, you are not able to track them anymore. That's as good as it gets you to. It gets you up that, hey, they delivered it, they received the email, they opened it, they clicked it, they didn't unsubscribe, they didn't abuse it, everything was good. And now what? Did they make a purchase? Did they fill out a form, but they abandoned it? Did they take a look at something? Did they go to your podcast next? Did they bounce to your YouTube? Did they follow you on Instagram? You know, all those kind of different metrics and analytics, that's kind of what I'm talking about when you're beginning to track those all together. So it's really good to implement the tracking on the landing page. And again, that reiterates the importance of having your website or having a landing page that you have access to, that you can be able to, you know, begin to wire in the analytics of it. YouTube, right? As I mentioned before, this is owned by and links directly with Google. So that is super duper duper helpful. Track view time, 15 seconds or more. That's a key metric that you're going to want to look on there. Understanding your analytics is the first step to monetizing your channel, right? So you see all these stories out there of, wow, this guy makes $100,000 a month just on YouTube. Wow, that's amazing. How do they do that? Well, you know, understanding your audience and what they're viewing and what they're going for, they're really good at it, and they know how to grow it, and they know how to get more and more and more and more views, and so on and so on and so on. But that has to start with understanding who's who and what's doing what. So by knowing your audience, you can continue to push successful content and increase your viewership. So again, that's a very applicable point for, you know, why analytics might help when you might be saying to yourself, oh, I'm not struggling, or I'm not seeing people go to it, I'm not seeing views. Well, you know the people that you already got. You know, understand your backyard first before, you know, trying to drive people to it. And again, like Julianne said at the beginning of this, tell your story. Stick with the truth. It always works, right? Here's number 4, Facebook. This requires a tracking pixel on your landing page. Actually, I should take that back. It does not require it. But if you're trying to link it through Google and, like I said, they're best friends, that tracking pixel becomes super, super informational. So what that allows is it allows Facebook to receive demographics and analytic data from Google. It also allows Google to receive demographic and analytic data from Facebook. So the two start working together. So when you start running campaigns and you start, I don't want to say start running campaigns, that's not what we're here for. We're here to do this all for free. But when you start doing posts and you're creating content, you're getting it out there, linking the two together does help perform like your website better. And then eventually you can get to a place where, when I'm talking about if you wanted to boost a post for that $10 or whatever it is, you can put on there the function of it, optimize for conversion, meaning that Facebook will know to go find the people that are most likely to not only look at your post, to not only click on your post, to not only view your landing page and go to your website, they will fill out the form and actually convert. Facebook will do all that for you. It'll do that, and it will put it in their best interest to optimize that for you. So when you have those things linked together, it really becomes a powerful tool and really, you know, saving a lot of money and reaching the right people and going after the right people. It's a great standalone platform, even if it wasn't with the Google Analytics. You can get a lot of key metrics that are in there. You can get your demographics, your age, your sex. You can get their location, their city, their states. I mean, this is some stuff that you should already know, but if you don't have a business page yet, this is super, super helpful to get in there and really start to understanding these things. So your content engagements, your likes, your reach, your impressions. A quick side note to reach and impressions. Think of reach as one single individual, all right? So if there's 40 of us on this call right now, that's a reach of 40. Impressions are how many times each individual viewed something or encountered something. So if there's 40 of us on this call, but we all watched this presentation twice, that's 80 impressions. So I had a reach of 40, but 80 impressions. So if you're trying to understand which one's a little bit more important, usually I kind of tend to say reach is important, but in understanding your impressions, that's also helpful. Some pro tips here on your business page. Click your insights. That's where all this is contained. This is helpful information on your followers, successful content, and helpful information about your followers, and so on. Whew, deep breath. Sorry, guys. I'm flying through these. I'm trying to keep these basic, but at the same time, a little bit helpful. Your Instagram. All right. So again, Instagram has a great standalone platform. However, if you're trying to go from a business standpoint and you're trying to drive traffic to somebody make a purchase or to do something or to sign up for something, having the analytics on the landing page is key. Because again, I might be able to see, very similar to email, all my metrics that are happening on Instagram, but once they leave Instagram, I have no idea what they do. I have no idea what's failing. I have no idea what to improve. So, linking those two together is super, super helpful. So whatever you're driving traffic towards, if it is outside of Instagram, then just know that you're going to want to have the analytics and the tracking on that side as well. Some key metrics to look at here, the actions taken on your account. So this will tell you how many times somebody's clicked on your website, how many sometimes has clicked to email you, how many times somebody has visited your profile, and so on. It accounts for all of that. Your impressions on your content, just like we mentioned before. In a previous month, we talked about Instagram. When you make a post and you have 2 photos in there instead of the 1, you're going to increase your impressions, because if the first photo didn't get a like, it's going to circle back and serve that content again and give you a second impression. So understanding what's getting more impressions versus not usually equates to more likes than not. So those are kind of helpful trends in there. The engagement, comments, shares, saves, things like that. Your audience demographics, understanding, where they're located, their age, their sex, all those things are super duper duper helpful. Now, where you find this, once you switch your Instagram to a business account, it's all free. It just takes 2 steps. You go into the upper right hamburger button, the little 3 horizontal lines, and you can view your insights. And there you can see the 3 main tabs: your activity, your content, and your audience. All right. Oops, skipped one. Pinterest. All right. So this requires analytics and landing page. You're going to see the same format throughout all of these, right? Each of them have a decent standalone platform, if not great. And they all require analytics to a platform or to a landing page if they leave this platform. That's really the important thing to note here. You can only track so much of what they do on each platform once they leave. If you don't have access to wherever they're going or wherever you're driving traffic to, that stuff is useless. So just kind of keep that stuff in mind. Some content, some key metrics here to track, your content impressions. Again, you're going to hear me say that quite a bit. Your engagement, how many times your pins get saved, how many times they link clicks, and of course your audience demographics. So this can be very, very helpful and effective for driving traffic to your blog, to your website, or even to another social media platform. But again, if you don't have tracking on that end, there's only so much you can do. Still helpful in there, but with that said, Snapchat, same scenario, same metrics: your followers, your views, your swipe ups, your link clicks. Your pro tip here is, the swipe up feature is very, very helpful. You can attach a link to your post and drive that traffic back to your website or to your social media or to your Instagram or to your podcast or to your recipe or to whatever it is that you would like them to drive to. So just knowing if they swipe up to view it, that's really helpful, but also knowing if they click on it. So if you see that it had 100 swipe ups, but only 70 clicks, well, that's a 70% click rate. That's really good. Okay. So if you see 100 swipe ups, but only 3 clicks, that's 3% click rate. That's still pretty good. You want it to be around that 10 to 20% mark across the board on all these, but it's something to note. And as mentioned, their Insights dashboard is currently on limited release. It's annoying because it looks really, really exciting. For those that geek out about this, just keep your fingers crossed. It's coming. LinkedIn, same scenario here. Their metrics are a little bit thin. You can see how many times it gets shared and some link clicks. You could get into some demographics, but it does require a little bit more activity and some followers to kind of go with it. So really just grinding at it and just looking at it, just how the posts are performing and looking at that content and what's working and what's not. There's some good stuff back there. One thing to use LinkedIn for, if anything, data from this content can be a helpful metric against other platforms. So if you're running content on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat and all this other stuff, reuse it. Reuse it on LinkedIn. Don't worry. We talked about that in the last month. Go ahead. Some of this stuff crosses over. Video, links, all these things cross over. but start to note, are you seeing the same kind of metrics? Are you seeing the same clicks? Are you seeing the same kind of, traction that you're getting on the other ones? And then you can kind of get a feel, okay, you know what, these ones work better here, they work better there, and so on with that. All right, Twitter. Again, same things on the landing page and the standalone platform. I know I'm flying through these guys, but I'm almost done. Bear with me. We got the key metrics here. Again, your reach, your impressions, your clicks, your retweets, your audience demographics, and your audience interests. Now, this is probably one of the more exciting of the bunch. One thing Twitter does really, really cool is they're an excellent source for understanding your demographics beyond the geographics and the age, where they're located and how old they are. But they do a decent amount of information based on the interest and income level. So that means, like, how many of your followers like soccer? It'll tell you. How many of your followers like TV and the Kardashians? Whatever those things, that's helpful stuff. And if you're finding that you're getting, people, so if you're finding that you're getting an audience on Twitter and you're wondering, I got a big following over here. I got a lot of people following me on my Twitter. It's getting good traction. I like this. I'm not really seeing a lot on Instagram. Well, if you go look at your interests and some of the insights that you find on your Twitter, and you start to see some of these kind of, what they follow and what they're into, again, TV shows, sports, different hobbies, start going after hashtags and things like that on the other platforms. So, that's a great example of how you can start to use the analytics, just like it is with LinkedIn, and how you can start to use them against one another, and how you can leverage the two with it. So I am going to unpause this and we'll go to questions and answers, because I see there's a lot of chat stuff up there, but I just real quick wanted to get in. The next course is May 21st. We're going to talk about increasing your website traffic. I will provide a little bit of a recap of what it takes to get your website going, and answer any questions in regards to that. But in the meantime, if you would like questions on those, and maybe prepare for it a little bit, or have some questions that you're wondering, feel free to hit me up and we can cross that bridge then. So I hope that was very, very helpful. Julianne, what'd you think? I'm sorry, I didn't even give you a chance to talk.
Oh, no, you're good. I think just like analytics is a lot to take in general, but I think if I can recap it for everybody in a few sentences of this, because how many of you, like, for example, how many of you throw out a post and you might get 10 likes on it, right? But do you ever get messages of people saying, hence a new coach I signed up today, where she's like, I've been watching you for years. She's never commented or liked on any of my things. Do you know what I'm saying? So how many of you like throw out content and you're like, I feel like it's just 3 people seeing it? What this analytics does is it allows you to see, like, I did not know this, T, when you said the reach is like per reach. So if you, like, I was looking at some of my content because I was like, I've got to see this. If I had a reach of 1,000 people and I had 50 likes, I was like, whoa, that's 1,000 people who saw that post, but only 50 people liked it. But the fact that 1,000 people saw it, I was like, I feel a little bit more confident in my content, or like I just feel a little bit more confident in that my social media is being seen beyond what it is right there. So that's how I recap this analytics. And it also just takes that guessing away, if your story is enough. One of my highest analytics was a before and after that I did, not in workout clothes. And I was like, oh, I always share a before and after in workout clothes, but the one that had the highest was one that I was like in a dress. And then it was like, and I was like, is it the picture or is it my story? And so it just got me thinking, like, I should post more of those types if that was a higher range. Then, like, especially on Instagram, you can see how many followers you get from that post specifically. So on that dress post that I'm talking about, that post alone brought 3 followers that weren't following me before. Or I can see which posts are getting on the homepage. So I wouldn't know this if my Instagram was not a business page. I love it. I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I think just like, I want to see how many profile visits I get a day, and just understanding how much of my content is getting out there. And then now it's learning to do something with it. I think at first I just had to like see where all this was happening, and it just gave me more confidence. So I appreciate that. What questions do you all have?
And you bring up a great point with the measuring success. A lot of people like to measure their success based on the engagements, the interactions. Getting it out to that many people is a success. Getting it to 100 people is a success. You might only have 4 or 5 likes. You might only have, starting out small as it builds. But if you begin to look at it from the analytics of how many people you're reaching and how many impressions it's getting, the likes and stuff will come. Because if you're focusing on broadcasting out and getting your story and just keep telling and keep beating your drum and keep marching to your beat, the rest, it'll happen. So just keep focusing on that big number. That's a really great tip for measuring success.
Yeah. Or just even looking at this one where it's like, whoa, my hashtags on this specific post reached more people than other parts of my hashtag because I use different hashtags. So now I need to go look at these hashtags and see if I can use them again. Or, you guys, if that was the highest hashtag engagement from my content, I should be going to those hashtags to go connect with new people and follow them and like on their stuff, so then they come follow me back. Do you see how this can help you work smarter in your business? So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say to stories, like when you mentioned hashtags, when you include my wife, she found that when she includes the state of Florida, hashtag Florida, in her post, it gets included and picked up in the Discover feed. So it gets significantly more views and significantly more, whatever. So, but understanding that you're not going to know until you look at some of your stories, and stories you can find analytics in your stories too. You can see that if I'm using hashtags or, some of the other variables that you're adding to it, they make a difference, and understanding what those differences are can kind of help you save time and post better content.
And imagine if you guys did a poll on one that you have a hashtag on, that poll is going to get seen by more people and not just the people who are following you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, I have not done that. That's kind of crazy. Okay. Any last questions before TJ gets off? I'm excited to hear more about gaining more followers and viewers and stuff like that in the next month.
All right. Let's see.
It was just a lot of us commenting back and forth. I think we were all just
because I'm like
analytics.
Yeah, should hashtags be in the post or in the comments? It doesn't matter. I personally prefer them in the post. I feel like the reason why you see a trend of in the comments is people will say, well, I don't want it to be up in the post or do whatever. If you look at Instagram, it only shows the first 2 lines anyway. Like you have to hit the next more, to really go down. And like, so if you have a long post, include them in there. I feel like it's a cheap way to get an extra comment on it. So there's different thoughts with it. It doesn't hurt one way or the other. It's still going to get picked up by searches and by other people using it, whether it's in the comments or in the post, but I recommend putting them in the post.
And I think too, like, as long as I know that right now they're like shadow banning, and what that means is like you're adding too much hashtags or the same hashtags every time. So stick with 8 to 10. Honestly, you guys, I just keep showing up and just keep doing it. And as long as I keep doing that, like I can't try to play and see where Instagram's at. It's just like I just need to be consistent first, and get better through I do. And Beth, honestly, I think what's going to help you with answering those types of questions is also looking at your analytics. So being like, is this working? Is this being seen by people, right? And then taking the action on that. So
yeah, and this is like I'm seeing some of you share what you use for hashtags. This is the perfect forum, to kind of talk about those ideas, like what works, what doesn't. If you have a hashtag and you use it every time, do you go out and engage with other people that use it? So if you're using I think it was like all 30 or some of the ones, the Santa Barbara, Cali, do you go out there and actively like other posts that do that, that's a great way to get more exposure and get more stuff. And you'll see that in your analytics. You'll start to see how many times your profile has been viewed. And the way you increase those views, AKA get followers, AKA get conversions and purchases and so on, is by getting your name out there and going and interacting with other people that follow those and seeing kind of what that community is about. So those are great tips of which hashtags to use.
I think everybody needs to hear that, because they're like, how do I get more people to come to me? And it's like, are you going to people? Because I've had to tell my brother, like, I've been so lazy with doing that, but I used to be so good at it, and he can see all my analytics. Like, he's in my Instagram looking at it. And it's a good gut check, because I'm like, when my profile is doing the best is when I'm going out there and connecting with more people. And so that's what I've been really trying to do lately. I think that's good. TJ, thank you for hanging with us tonight. We appreciate you giving us your time.
No, I appreciate you guys. You guys are great. Thank you for letting me into your homes. I feel like I invade your guys' privacy every night. It's like, hey, sorry, like, dude on board.
No way.
Okay.
Real fast, I'm going to hit end record. Everybody stay on. Let's take a picture.